The mountain of fairy hair. Have you ever wondered just how long eternity lasts? It can be quite a long while indeed. A good fairy once explained it to me like this. High in the Himalayas stands the tallest mountain in the world. Every 100 years, the tiniest bird in existence flies to this peak to sharpen its beak against the stone. When the little bird has finally succeeded in wearing away that entire humongous mountain until nothing of it remains, then, and only then, has the first second of eternity passed. Quite a long time, wouldn't you agree? But do you know what takes even longer? I shall tell you. Trying to untangle such a great mountain made of nothing but fairy hair. Why, you might ask? Would anyone wish to untangle a mountain of hair? Well, let me tell you the story. It was many, many years ago when folks still believed in good fairies and trolls. Back then, there were occasional encounters between humans and these spirit beings who were actually there to stand by our side, helping us and warding off any misfortune that might befall mankind. But all that was to change from one day to the next, all because one meddlesome fellow wanted to know more than was good for him, or indeed, more than was good for anyone. We still suffer from the consequences of his curiosity today. Now, it is a rare thing indeed to spot a fairy or a troll, and they hardly ever lend us a hand with our daily chores anymore. Nosy was the name of this curious lad, so mind you remember it. Nosy, not black ears or some such thing. Nosy had made up his mind to catch a fairy. He wanted to know everything, where they came from, how long they had lived in the land, and of course, what they could do with their magical powers. He had heard that once a year, the fairies gather in a secret place to hold council, celebrate, and initiate the young ones. He also knew that such a gathering only ever took place at night, under the light of a full moon. His grandfather had once come very close to such a meeting during a late-night fishing trip. So Nosy had an inkling of which grove near which pond the fairies might frequent. And so, at every full moon, he lay in wait. Being alone in the woods at night, even with the moon at its fullest, can be a rather spooky business. Many times, Nosy waited in vain. But on the 11th full moon, as he hid in the forest near the very spot where his grandfather had fished long ago, he heard the sound of tiny, pitter-patter footsteps. The first of a long line of fairies fluttered past him, heading toward their secret meeting. Nosy was astonished at just how many of them there were. He decided to snatch the very last one. He had brought a large sack to throw over her, planning to tie it tight and make a run for it, showing a clean pair of heels. The line grew thin, and soon he had to make his choice. That one. She seemed to be the last. Scarcely had she passed his hiding place when he swung the sack with a clever flourish, tied it shut, and ran as fast as his legs would carry him. The poor fairy inside was, of course, terribly startled and quite frightened. However, what Nosy did not know, and could not possibly have known, was that all fairies carry a small crystal in their apron pocket for emergencies. Despite the bumping and jolting of the sack, she managed to reach it with her tiny hand and squeezed it tight until it grew warm. She knew the other fairies would immediately know what to do. This was to prove fatal for Nosy. The fairies at the gathering were alerted the moment their own crystals began to warm and vibrate. "Our sister Penajama is in danger," they cried. "We must turn the Enchanted Forest into a labyrinth so this thief cannot find his way out." They all took each other by the hand, and in an instant the straight forest paths began to twist into small curves and then into great circles. There was no way out. Then, together, they set off to find their sister trapped in that coarse sack. Nosy ran and ran, and it seemed to him that the sack, which had been light as a feather, was growing heavier by the minute. Soon he was out of breath and had to set it down to rest. "I'll be out of the woods soon," he thought. But he was mistaken. He picked up the sack, which felt heavier still, and trudged on. The forest simply would not end. He didn't even notice he was walking in circles. After all, apart from the moonlight, it was quite dim under the trees. "There's something queer going on here," he said aloud. "Right you are, you fairy thief." Suddenly, he was surrounded by hundreds of fairies, and none of them looked at all friendly. The sack was taken from him, Penajama was freed, and he was bound with rope and led to the center of the clearing. "For centuries we have helped humans with their wishes and needs," said the eldest fairy in a booming voice, pointing a finger at him. "But such a wicked deed we have never encountered." Nosy had set out to catch a fairy, and now he was a prisoner of hundreds. So it goes sometimes. His misdeed was to have consequences not just for him, but for all of mankind. The fairies deliberated and reached their verdict. "Henceforth, you shall live inside a mountain of fairy hair and shall not be permitted to leave until you have untangled every single strand. Furthermore, from this day on, we shall no longer serve mankind. They must now set everything right themselves. No longer will we finish their chores in the night. It is over. We shall keep to ourselves, and humans shall keep to theirs. Only when you, Nosy, have found your way out by untangling the mountain, will we call a new assembly and consider whether to face mankind once more." Oh dear, you wouldn't believe it if you hadn't seen it, but the fairies began to cut each other's knee-length hair, gathering it in thousands of baskets. Fairy hair grows back very quickly. By the time they had shorn the last fairy, the first ones already had their full manes back, so they cut them all over again. The baskets of hair were dumped into a great heap until a massive mountain of fairy hair arose. The work took some 200 years, and in all that time, no human ever found the path into the Enchanted Forest again. Deep inside that mountain, in a tiny cave at the very bottom, sat Nosy. He held a single thread of spun hair in his hand. All around him, the hair was as thick as felt, knotted and tangled, and he could only free himself by winding it all into a neat ball. That was all a very long time ago, but no one has found the way back into those woods since. But Nosy, they say, is sitting there to this day, still trying to untangle those millions of fairy hairs. You see, being too nosy can have dire consequences, and not just for oneself.